Good day, podcast listeners. My name is Tom Pence. I am your host, and welcome to More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley, the podcast powered by Corsmo Funeral and Cremation Service right here in Moorhead, Minnesota. Our podcast is pretty simple. It is informal. It's strictly informational, and it's all about the kinds of topics that matter to everyday people. We will be talking about community life, practical guidance, personal stories, and the work being done around us every day, the things that often don't make the headlines, but they still make a difference. Each episode is going to be a relaxed conversation meant to inform, encourage, and keep you connected to what's happening right here in our area. So, grab a cup of Lutheran Church coffee to go with that Scotcheroo bar, and if you've got plenty of time, grab a slice of cinnamon bread with a thick layer of cheese whiz and a slice of olive. And enjoy the conversation. We are glad you're here. Good day, podcast listeners. Welcome back to one more episode of More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley. Tom Pence is my name, and I'm the host, and we are recording towards the end of April, I believe. And for those of you that actually care, that's what we're recording at. And today, I really have an exciting podcast, in my opinion. They're all exciting, but I am sitting here today with a couple representatives of New Life Center here in Fargo, North Dakota. That's their base anyway. But sitting here with Andrea Feigum and Tim Kahnk.
Yeah.
Tim Kahnk, very good. Andrea, according to all indications, tells me she's the advancement director, which I'll let her explain that in a moment. And Tim is the social enterprise director. So they're doubling up on me. And we were just chatting a little bit a moment ago about Tim's title as the social enterprise director. Sounds like he drives the party bus, but it's basically involves the thrift stores and a lot more than that. But just tell me a little bit about yourself, Andrea, Tim, and explain the titles and the roles. I kind of covered that already, but yeah, I'll just have one of you hit the road.
All right. Well, I'm Andrea Feigum. I'm the advancement director at New Life Center. And really my role focuses on connecting the community to our mission, sharing the stories of the guests that are coming to New Life Center for our services, sharing needs with our community, and then the impact that our mission has on the men we serve. So really just making sure the community understands the work that New Life Center does and how they can get involved and help.
All right. Well, Tim, we better clarify the misleading I put out there.
Sure, yeah. No party buses, unfortunately, but
No, that's good.
Also no Star Trek ships. That's another one people ask me about. Unfortunately, I don't get to pilot that either.
Enterprise.
But yeah, social enterprise director. I basically get to oversee the general management and operations of our 2 thrift stores. So that can mean, helping toss bags of clothes from our donation piles, or, looking at a spreadsheet or whatever. But basically keeping 2 really awesome stores and 2 really cool teams pointed in the right direction so that we can continue to just have a sustainable, reliable source of revenue for the mission, so that we can keep driving success for both guests, our programs, but just also all those general operating expenses. So that's where we come in, is doing everything we can to keep that moving forward.
All right. Well, I won't ask you to expand on that at this point, since we'll get to that in just a moment. But for a lot of people who are really maybe not familiar with the New Life Center, other than seeing like a million drop boxes around the area, it's great. I bet you find some interesting things in those drop boxes.
Oh, goodness, yes.
We'll come back to that in a second. But tell me a little bit, just in a few moments, what is the New Life Center, and then we'll get into a little more detail.
All right. Well, so for those that are not familiar with New Life Center, we are a Christ-centered rescue mission.
Amen.
And we help men that are experiencing homelessness and addiction right here in Fargo Moorhead. And we provide emergency shelter, meals, clothing, recovery program, and then other long-term support to help men really get on the pathway out of homelessness and addiction. And really our ultimate goal is to see their life transformed by the love of Christ.
It's quite obvious on your website. There's no gray area. It's like, boom, it's right there. So that's cool.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, we're true to who we are.
Yeah, right. You had mentioned to me in an email that the 119-year legacy, and I've only been here 33 years, 119. I'm getting close to that. But man, that's an amazing milestone. Can you walk us through really kind of how it began, maybe like the founding purpose and how it's evolved? I know that you can't cover 109, maybe you can, 119 years in just a few moments, but give it your best shot.
Well, I can certainly try. Yeah, it really is incredible. New Life Center has been serving our community for 119 years, and it really began with a simple but powerful message of wanting to meet the spiritual and physical needs of those that are experiencing homelessness in the Fargo-Moorhead region. And meeting those needs, and then not only for today, but for tomorrow. And through that time and our 119-year legacy, we've actually adjusted and adapt to our growing community. The complexity of homelessness and addiction in our communities changed drastically, and so we've had to grow alongside that, changing some of our program offerings, making sure that we can really meet the need and the complexity that is coming to us. I think another really key item to that is not losing sight of who we are, and we are still a Christ-centered rescue mission today. And I think that is so important to that commitment and that dedication from that 119 years that we've seen as staying true and serving with the love of Jesus every single day.
As I look at the website, I see we call the board of directors, everybody on there. Mm-hmm. It's not just Rob, Rob is kind of the face that I've become familiar with. It's not just Rob saying, hey, we're going this direction, we're going to be doing that. He has to be accountable to a few people. But you mentioned the core values. It's Christ-centered.
Yes.
And I guess you say, I guess I was going to ask you, who do you serve and why? And you pretty much covered that. But over the 119 years, things change. Obviously, like you said, the community changes, people changes, situations change too. But you stayed true to that.
We have.
Yeah.
Yep, stayed true to continuing to serve men, providing them with shelter, but then providing meals to men, women, and children. And we do that through outsourcing, working with other really dedicated partners, making sure that we can continue serving all demographics in need of food. Sure. And that's been a large portion of what we've been doing, and a big challenge for us is, what I talked about in adapting is we used to invite everybody on site and into our shelter for a meal. And since that no longer works for us, we are now delivering meals to the Downtown Engagement Center. Right. That does work for us. Right. And we're also meeting a larger population of those that are in need. So we've just had to adapt over the years with our programming.
There's probably been some situations, and nothing specific, but really has maybe had you reconsider, should we be less Christ-centered or something, just to maybe reach more people. But I'm glad and grateful to hear that you've stayed true to that, because that's the foundation, as you say.
Yep.
Right on, can't beat that.
Yeah.
Well, on your website, I've done a little research on your website. I look at the tabs, the Learn More tabs, and like I said, it's really quite clear, the statement of faith, as well as the other purposes, the mission purpose, the vision statements. I'm getting this a little bit confused, but if anybody ever has any doubts as far as what its purpose or vision is, it's all right there. It's not tucked away, deep down somewhere, and go like, well, but maybe. I guess what sets New Life Center maybe apart, if it does, from other organizations, Christ-centered is huge. But I guess, is there something else? Not bragging, we're not saying, you're better or more efficient or things, but I guess what do you think sets them apart?
Yeah.
I think for New Life Center in itself is that we don't shy away from who we are.
Right.
We love Jesus, and we proclaim that loudly. And, for the guests that are coming through our doors, it is not a requirement for them to be a believer. And no means are we, making sure that in order to receive services that they have to sit through a devotion or to chapel or anything like that.
No altar calls.
No. We certainly just want to, walk alongside them where they are, meet them where they are. And I think that really truly sets us apart from other organizations. We're all doing great work.
Exactly.
We're all there to serve and help our community in the best way possible. But with that extra care and love that we put into not only making sure that we're hiring the right people, that we're focusing our programs and structuring them around that love of Jesus, and how can we show that and shine a light on who we are, but then impact the lives of those that are coming through our doors.
Right on. All right. You've got a lot of programs, a lot of services. We'll get to the thrift store here just kind of in a little minute, but maybe just give me a broad overview of some of the key programs. And from what I can see, the Genesis Recovery Program is more than just giving them a Bible and saying, "Hey, good luck." Tell me a little bit about that Genesis Recovery. It looks quite, not intense, but it looks very comprehensive.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you hear about New Life Center, you probably hear first and foremost about our emergency services. So that's our emergency shelter. That's our largest program that we have. Our newest initiative along the lines of emergency shelter, we just opened another overflow shelter that has 32 additional beds for our community. It's overnight, operates 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. So men have a safe place to go in the evening. They're not stuck out in the cold temperatures. But we've just made the decision to continue operating that facility as well, because we know the need is there, whether it's winter or it's summer. The season really doesn't change the need.
Right. I'm sorry to interrupt, but is that the same location as is that emergency, the second shelter that you built, is it at the same location?
Very close.
Okay.
Pretty much diagonal from it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got lucky having a good space right there.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about the Genesis Recovery. And I'm jumping ahead if I'm skipping over some other programs. Please add.
Yeah. So our Genesis Recovery Program is a long-term addiction treatment program. It's approximately 12 to 18 months long. We say that because the first 5 phases are 12 months in length through the core programming, and then they have the optional to participate in a 6-month transitional care once they've graduated the program. This is for men that are have tried other treatment programs and they're just not successful for them. Usually they're too short in length, or they're not hitting the key areas of where their addiction really lies. And it not only just to drugs and alcohol, it's behaviors that are unhealthy. And so we really address the true person, the core problem, and then making sure that they understand how to move forward through counseling. It is a nationally renowned program using the Genesis process.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yep, and it's only one of a program like itself in our area, in our region. And with this program, the guys go through different phases, and really it is customized to where they are. It meets them where they are, because not everybody moves at the same pace. And so I think that's very crucial, especially when you're addressing multiple behaviors and concerns that may be attributing to their addiction and their behaviors. And so going through the process of the first, 5 phases, and then coming alongside them and meeting them where they're at, really talking about the gospel and how Jesus can work by and through their lives, really helping them establish that relationship and what it means to be a true believer and follower of Christ. Then it gives them opportunities also to get connected with healthy networks. Usually with those that are experiencing addiction, they're hanging around individuals that are also using, and we want to get them out of those environments. Introducing them to mentors, sponsors, getting them connected to a home church, which is so important. And it's not necessarily about a certain denomination. They have an opportunity to visit multiple churches and get connected to one that they really feel welcomed and can align with their values and their beliefs. And then introducing them to our thrift store and what it means to work. Which is so important, and maybe Tim can kind of connect on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of our programming, just because it's the part that I get to interact with. Obviously our job as a store is to develop revenue, but the tangible, like the part where we get to directly work with guests is that job training program that our Genesis team has done such a good job of building up over the last few years. These guys don't necessarily, it's not like they don't know how to work. In fact, I've met a lot of them that have pretty amazing backgrounds, really unique skills. I've learned some stuff from these guys. It's so interesting to get to know them. And, my opinion, of people in a situation like that has changed so much as you get to just know somebody.
They're not just the stereotypical down and out bum, as you used to say.
You can really quickly just judge and be like, well, why don't you just go get a job? And it's such a silly thought once you get to actually know somebody walking that out. And so I think the biggest thing we get to do with the stores is not so much, we teach them some basic retail skills, and it might be a kind of a refresher on what it's like to have, clock in and clock out and get feedback. But for the most part, it's reestablishing like the relational aspect of that part of your life. When we spend, 40 hours a week at a job, we ideally have good relationships with the people that we work with. And so it's very impactful for the guests that come into the stores, because they get to establish that relationship with our staff, our volunteers that are in the stores. The volunteers absolutely love that. Our team members love that. That's a lot of what drives our team is that job training program, where we get to, just watch somebody develop over the course of a few months and get ready to head back out into society.
That's neat what Andrew was talking about, the spiritual aspect of it and getting some of those things right. But yet yours is the hands and the feet, if you want to call it that, where it gives them a real hands-on, no pun intended, option to actually work and be productive, because we all know that that's important. Yeah. Right on. Mm-hmm. Can you share, I guess, without personally naming, but just some personal stories about one or two individuals that you've seen come through and success? Maybe you're one of them. Yeah. Success stories.
Yeah. Oh boy, there's a lot of them. I mean, one of my favorite relationships that I had established with a guest, and you have to be careful, because they're vulnerable people, and so there's a lot of circumstances in their lives that aren't even in their control, and so things can change quickly. So there's boundaries you need to keep up. But I remember an individual that when he first started, one of his tasks that day was just to do our cleaning routine, and so he went from in his first week essentially just spraying some Febreze into a bathroom, and that was now clean, to actually being able to even just follow like a procedure, step by step, like this is actually how you do this. So that individual needed a little bit more attention, guidance, and training.
These are things that we just assume.
Right. Yeah. We kind of know what does clean look like, but not everybody does. And he just had not been provided that opportunity in his life. So it just felt good to, get to essentially be Jesus to him in that moment, and just be patient. And it's like, wow, it's kind of a check on reality. I just walk in this assumption that people understand the same things that I do. And so that was one of my favorites, just because there's such a learning curve for me. But then, watching people reunite with family, they settle into the program. They're gaining all this experience and counseling from our awesome team over there, and then watching them, establish family relationships, but then you get to share that, bring that to work with us, and tell us about their life outside of work, and just kind of watch that shape from an outside perspective. It's just really meaningful.
And that's got to be so rewarding. If you've seen, well, like I just said, individual started just thinking cleaning was spraying
Right.
some Febreze, and he could have gone on to do greater things. Obviously, he did.
Yeah.
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 And I imagine if a lot of the people that come through the program, if you want to call it that, or work at the thrift stores, continue to do that unless they move away. But they've benefited from it, and they know what's the benefits of it, and that's just what you were talking about.
Yep.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, how do people, I guess, find their way to the New Life Center? Obviously not physical, but there's probably some that are not so pleasant, and some are people that just walk in the door. But I guess, how do people come into your presence?
Yeah. It can be a mixture of ways.
Right.
Just hearing it on the streets, anyone that's experiencing homelessness, really, they have a way to connect with others that are also experiencing homelessness. And so helping each other find resources that they need. Sometimes it's referral by law enforcement or other community partners that we work with. Sometimes it's a church that directs them our way. For our program for Genesis specifically, there is an application process, and we are interviewed and making sure that you are the right fit for the program. And a lot of our referrals come from law enforcement, from the jails. And so working with our partners, making sure that we are communicating what is available, how many beds we have available, other shelters in our community. We're all connected so that we can talk to each other and help each other out in terms of bed capacity. The challenge with us was we currently only shelter males, and so having that out in our community and maybe really educating our community about who we serve and who we shelter, I think is important. And then I think other referrals come from hospitals too.
Sure.
Emergency visits, that's very common for somebody that is experiencing homelessness, and it is a very treacherous, cold winter evening.
Right.
They have nowhere to go. Sometimes they get to the ER by ambulance or whatever method, and then end up in our shelter.
I know we've done some great interviews with other nonprofits, but also with organizations like Furniture Mission. We were just talking about that a moment ago, and you have I'm seeing a great network, communication, that's the word, that you just shared with different agencies that can, if you can't help them, somebody can. Hopefully nobody is just like left on the street, quote unquote.
Right.
So that expansion, I saw some photographs of the expansion, and I remember when you were coming through that, it's just like, I mean, it's obviously not, the comfort suites, but it's a place for them to be and stay warm. And absolutely, that's important. Yeah. Well, there's probably, a lot of people are familiar with New Life Center, but for our listeners that are hearing this, and I guess what are some ways that you might suggest that they can support New Life Center? Obviously, monetary is important because that's what pays the bills. But outside of that, throw out some ideas on maybe some ways people could help.
Yeah. Obviously, monetary gifts are very important to our mission as a nonprofit. We rely on our community's support in order to operate day in and day out. Volunteering is also an important way that someone can give back. We have plenty of volunteer opportunities at our thrift stores, which Tim can talk about. We have volunteer opportunities at our shelter to serve a meal or help prepare the meal. And then we are looking for individuals to mentor and sponsor guests in our Genesis Recovery Program. Due to demographics, that would be a male focus, a volunteer position. But there's just so many ways that they can give back to our community through New Life Center. I think our thrift stores, though, are a really big option for, just if you have something that you no longer need, whether it is a piece of clothing or a decor item.
Right.
It's just, maybe some clutter that you
Yeah.
are getting rid of during the spring season,
Right.
spring cleaning season.
Right.
That they can donate those items to our thrift store, and then those profits come back to the mission. And so maybe even just touch a little
Yeah.
bit more about how.
Yeah, and there's several ways to do that. I think you mentioned earlier some of our clothing bins. We've got, oh goodness, I think we're at like 34 of those spread across the FM area right now. Typically in pretty accessible areas. Some of the recycling sites around town we've partnered with the cities on. And so we have bins there, so you can, take your plastics and all that down there, but go ahead and bring in down a bag of clothes and stuff like that too. So we're picking those clothing bins up 2 to 3 times a week.
Really?
So please know that sometimes there's bags sitting next to them because people, maybe it's full or people just couldn't get the door to cooperate if it's icy. But we do pick those up regularly, and that stuff makes such a huge difference. That's a significant portion of what we get in come from those clothing bins, and they're a very convenient option. We do some truck pickup, not a lot, but you can look at our website to find access to that. And then obviously if you want to come and shop, I mean, we take donations right at the stores. You can drop stuff off right there. We have a friendly team that's ready to take your stuff from you, make that as quick as possible so you can get back to your busy day or get into our store and shop. And we love to see people at the doors and just, hear some stories from them. And it's fun to hear people just talk about their view of New Life Center. A lot of times they want to share when they get to our doors about their experience. And so that's always pretty interesting. So
I have to admit, I occasionally, I don't frequently go to thrift stores, but I do, as I'm driving by, want to go because I remember finding a really nice, sweet Western shirt at a place, and it was only like $2.50.
Yeah.
And I wore it proudly, and it wore out. But anyway, I do enjoy going through there because you never know what you're going to find. One person's junk, as they say, is another person's treasure.
Yep.
And you could call it whatever you want. But those bins, over 30 some in the area, they make it convenient.
Yeah, they're all over the place. And we have a map on our website too of where those are located. Yeah. So if you have questions, that's typically the best place to look.
Yeah. And I would like to give just a shout out to Tim and his team. They really go through our stores and make sure that the items are presentable and they're worth value. That what we're putting on the floor is somebody wants to purchase that, which is really important because oftentimes thrift stores kind of get run down, and we get comments often like, "Oh, your store is so clean and it smells nice," and that's on purpose. We really take pride in that.
The newer one, I'll just say it's off 52nd Avenue.
Yes.
That's spotless. I've been in there many times. That's nice, and that wide aisles too.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's very shoppable, and it looks great, and it's a fantastic location for us. So.
Yeah. So those drop boxes, I don't want to get into too specific details, but I imagine some people just kind of put some things in there that they might say, it's too far to the landfill, I'll just toss it in there. I bet somebody might want it. Well, maybe not.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because
cautious.
We do get some interesting items in there, ranging from unspeakable to maybe just a mild misunderstanding of what we can use. We really don't use things that are, broken, for example. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't realize that when you drop something breakable in there, it might go all the way to the bottom and then break, which is totally fine. Typically, if it could break, we just ask you to bring it to the store. That's typically best. But clothing, bags, shoes, they work great in the clothing bins. And we love all that kind of stuff. And if you're ever wondering, like clothing especially, if it's too worn out to donate, this is a point I really like to make, is we do recycle hundreds of thousands of pounds of clothing every year. So if something's a little stained, ripped, don't feel bad for donating that. It's our job to make that decision for you. And if we're not going to sell it, we have lots of options. We do have a voucher program that we work with our guests to get them basic need items. That's the stuff that is still sellable. It's presentable and good. We just keep that, at a certain price point to work in a voucher system. We partner with the Salvation Army for the same purpose, so community members can benefit from that stuff. But stuff that is just not wearable, it's just too stained or ripped or whatever, we can recycle that. We do from 44 to 120,000 pounds a month of just recycled clothing, shoes, belts, purses, all that. So,
well, I picked up some plates and some other flatware from some thrift stores, and my wife, I haven't done it for a while, but I'll bring them home and she'll just kind of go, now what did you bring home? There's really some cool colors and stuff like that, and I'm kind of a mix and match. I don't have everything just the same pattern and things, so she bears with me. She does great. But a little bit more serious, tell me a little bit, maybe, Andrea, about the memorial giving, because that is really an emotional thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And oftentimes, too, when a loved one passes, they may not necessarily know what to do. They are very overwhelmed in the situation in the first place. And so just keeping nonprofits in mind for memorial giving, I know that is just one way you can carry on someone's legacy is through a gift, and making sure that that gift goes to a nonprofit like New Life Center, where then we can turn that gift around and make sure that someone has a place to sleep tonight, someone has a meal to eat, they're not going hungry, or they are connected with clothing items that they need. Just recently, someone came to our shelter and didn't have any shoes, was walking around with just socks. So those items that are donated to us, sometimes we have to purchase them if we don't have them. So financial gifts, memorial giving, those gifts really live on throughout others.
Yeah. And as a giver, I, for some reason, I always kind of just fall back to clothing. But everybody, and I'm safe in saying that, has stuff in their closet they don't wear anymore or need anymore. And it's just gratifying when I donate something to know that somebody's gonna use this, because I know it wasn't doing any good in my closet other than gathering dust. And whether it be, like I say, plates or furniture, you do take furniture, don't you?
We will take small items like end tables, but for the most part, anything larger than a small chair, we actually refer people to the furniture mission.
Exactly.
We have a great partnership with them when guests move out of our shelter. We set them up to receive furniture through them. Our truck team even sometimes is helping actually deliver that furniture, and again, getting the just tangible touch point with the guest. And
So the recent expansion that you talked to me a little bit about, how about some of the future goals? Do you have anything? Maybe you've plateaued now, you're good, everything's fine, we're not doing anything more?
We're good. We're just going to keep coasting.
9
to 5, yeah.
Yeah. No, it would be to continue operating Operation Hope, our overflow shelter. Again, the need is there. And it doesn't matter what season it is, whether it is brutally cold winter or hot summer. Someone needs a place to sleep tonight. And so we want to make sure that those doors are continually open at our emergency shelter and our new overflow shelter at Operation Hope. And then continuing to grow our Genesis Recovery program. We know that need is there as well. And continuing to invest in more individuals' lives ultimately will transform our community and our workspace, our just our daily lives. And so continuing to invest and pour in those programs specifically really is going to take New Life Center to the next level. And continuing to meet the need. Adjusting based on what the complexity is that's coming through our doors. As I mentioned earlier, throughout the 119-year history, we've had to continue to grow and adapt to meet those changes. And so that's what we're going to continue to do.
I like the idea. You're not just a Band-Aid that, this person needs a shirt, give them a shirt and say, lots of luck, good luck. you're looking to change people's hearts,
Yes.
and changed hearts are really the only thing that's going to change this world, change this country. It's not just a bunch of fresh clothing on there. Do you see like expanding to other communities, or is this pretty much your focus?
That is not on the table
It's not
right
like
now.
it's not like a franchise.
Yes.
But I didn't know if, like, just to pick as an example, Detroit Lakes.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there's some people in that area, but so just curious about
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
put some drop boxes over there.
Right. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to consider that.
Yeah. Yeah, at this time, no, not expanding to any other communities. Fargo is where they established, and in fact, Fargo was only 36 years old when New Life Center was first founded.
Wow.
So, I think Fargo Moorhead is really the core who the organization is, and then will continue to be.
Just curious, where was the first New Life Center location?
So it was on Front Street, which is no longer, it's now Main Avenue, where the Frying Pan is currently located.
Sure.
It was in that approximate area.
Did it go up in the fire? Or was it?
No, I'm not sure what happened. It was
It's not there now.
It was founded in 1907 as the Glad Tidings Mission,
Right on.
and then it moved down the street a couple buildings down, and then became the Fargo Union Mission in 1928. And then they moved the facility to its current location on 3rd Avenue North. And when they opened the doors in 1968, they opened as New Life Center.
Okay.
So Fargo Union Mission is still our legal name, and we do business as New Life Center today.
Somewhere are there some great photos and archives of some of those earlier places?
There are, yes. On our YouTube channel, you can find our Centennial video that has a lot of that original history photos. You can see of worship and chapel, and one of the founders, O.E. McCracken, he also used to host a podcast or a radio show. It wasn't a podcast then, it was a radio show on WDAY. It was on Sundays, and he used to preach, and so, yeah.
I'll have to look for that. If you put it on your website, you get too much stuff on there.
Yes.
So it's good to hear,
Yes.
Well, we talked a little bit about, volunteering, patronizing the thrift stores, volunteering, donating, all those kind of things. But, the links to your website and locations of your stores will be on our podcast notes. But for those of you that are listening, it's simply the fargonlc.org. Phone numbers on there too, but that's really about the best way to get started if you want to find out more information about New Life Center, and I strongly recommend that. But one last thing before we wind this up, is there just kind of one thing you want the listeners to know that I haven't asked and you've just been waiting months to tell me? Well, days. Anything you just want people to take away from our conversation today?
Yeah. I mean, I think from my perspective is if you're already familiar but not connected, get connected, and that might just be, coming in and shopping, and even if you don't buy anything, just look around. I mean, just have some fun seeing what all's there. I mean, it's amazing what each of our stores
You took
have.
the words out of my mouth.
Right.
You'll be amazed.
Yeah, it's truly amazing, and if you're looking to get more connected than that, like Andrea said earlier, volunteers in our stores is such a crucial element of what we do. And they have so much fun with it. There's so many fun jobs to have, and if that's getting to work directly next to a guest and watch them develop, or working with some of our younger crowd, we hire a lot of students, and some of our volunteers really enjoy kind of watching them grow up in the stores. So there's just a ton of opportunities. Yeah, come and just get connected.
And some of the, I'll just call them mentors through your Genesis program. I bet once people graduate, quote unquote, I bet oftentimes these mentors are still good friends, and they walk with them, as you say. So I kind of jumped in and interrupted there. But Andrea, how about you? Any one last takeaway?
Yeah, I would just say that for anyone listening, that no matter what someone's situation is, that there is always hope, and there's that opportunity for transformation. And it could come down to you that are listening right now.
Right.
If you feel called to join us in this transformation and be part of this story, you won't regret it. I mean, the feeling that you get just walking through our doors, it truly changes your life too. As employees, we say this often, is that it's not only the men that we serve that are walking through their doors and their lives are being changed. Our lives are being changed because of this work. And so if you are feeling compelled to get involved, like Tim said, come shop at our stores, or if you'd like to tour a mission and learn more about it, please give us a call. You can reach me on my direct line at 701-532-4423. Give me a call. I would be happy to arrange a tour, and you can see our spaces, because that's really where the impact comes, when you can see that firsthand who we're serving,
Right.
what types of services we're offering, and what the spaces looks like, because homelessness sometimes can be viewed as scary, or there's just so many unknowns. And when you learn what it's like for somebody to experience homelessness, it really changes your heart too.
Discipleship comes to mind, or is the word that comes to my mind too. Like you say, you walk alongside them. And a person, like you just said, just come take a tour. A person could start by just simply helping serve meals.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then from there, it could be, hey, maybe I can help out at that thrift store. And then it's a process too. So
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Yep.
And obviously, in my opinion, prayer is huge. And
Yes.
so in addition to the funds and the volunteering, prayer, I know makes a big impact. So, well, thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Tim. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
your coming in today. And again, for you folks listening, we'll have the information in the notes in our podcast. So enjoy this end of April. Summer's coming eventually. So again, thank you very much for coming.
Awesome. Thank you.
You have been listening to More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley. And I have been your host, Tom Pence, and I'm one of the funeral directors at Corsmo Funeral and Cremation Service here in Moorhead, Minnesota. The word service has been an intentional part of our name for over 66 years, and we pride ourselves on attention to detail and personal service. Personally, my responsibilities revolve around the advanced planning aspect of our profession, and I enjoy visiting with people as we discuss the many possibilities of a memorable celebration service that will eventually honor a life according to their wishes. And from a practical standpoint, which is getting so very important these days, I help families plan ahead so that the family left behind will not be burdened with a large financial responsibility, therefore allowing them to spend time with their family, remembering their loved one, not having to worry about how to handle the expenses. Asset protection is also a very real issue these days, as many care facilities can cost several $1,000s a month, depending upon the level of care. Corsmo can provide simple and effective ways of protecting those assets, and I welcome the opportunity to visit with you about that. If you enjoyed this podcast and found some value in it, we greatly appreciate your sharing with a friend. And if you have a moment, text somebody right now. Encourage them to give a listen and perhaps follow the podcast personally. We anticipate publishing a new episode on the first day of each month, so check back for interesting guests and topics. And of course, we also welcome your suggestions for future guests and topics of interest as well. So thank you for listening. And if you want more information and actually want some free estimates or just have questions, contact any of the directors at Corsmo Funeral and Cremation Service. Our phone number is 218-233-1533, and our web address is corsmofuneralservice.com. Thanks again for listening, and from all of us at Corsmo, have a great day.